The message arrived at dawn, when the blue edge of Earth was still quiet and the cities had not yet finished yawning themselves awake. Every satellite picked it up at once, military and civilian, with our eyes and television relays. A single signal, clean and calm and impossibly strong. It translated itself before any human hand could touch it, sliding into every major language as if it had been waiting for us to invent them. The words were simple and carried no anger, no threat, only certainty. Human civilization of Earth. You have 48 hours to surrender governance of your planet. Comply and your species will be preserved. Resist and your species will be reduced. In control rooms across the world, officers stared at one another. Some laughed because laughter was easier than fear. Others reached for phones that would not stop ringing. Presidents were woken, prime ministers shaken from sleep, generals summoned from beds and flights and secure bunkers. Within minutes, emergency channels were alive with overlapping voices. Old rivals suddenly sharing screens, borders momentarily irrelevant. The aliens did not show themselves. They did not posture or boast. They simply waited. The first 12 hours vanished in analysis. Scientists argued over signal origin. Engineers marveled at the efficiency of the transmission. Linguists pointed out how perfectly the message fit human psychology. It was not a roar of conquest. It was a deadline that frightened people more than threats ever could. At hour 13, the images arrived. A second message unfolded like a curtain, revealing distant systems, stripped bare, planets cracked open. Like eggs, cities melted into glass. The images were not gory, not cruel. They were instructional. This is the cost of refusal, the alien voice said. Neutral as gravity. Panic bloomed in waves. Markets collapsed and reformed and collapsed again. Religious leaders prayed aloud on global streams. Conspiracy theorists shouted that it was all a trick. But beneath the noise, something else began to move. In underground rooms and windowless halls, people who had spent their lives preparing for the worst finally faced it. The admirals who knew every ocean trench. The pilots who had trained for skies that might one day burn. The engineers who kept black projects alive on impossible budgets. They listened quietly, then began to ask a different question. Not how do we surrender, but how do we answer? At hour 20, a small group convened without cameras, without flags, without speeches. They represented nations that had once threatened one another with extinction. Now sitting shoulder to shoulder, a scientist spoke first, her voice steady. If they wanted us gone already, they would not have warned us. They want submission, not silence. A soldier nodded and added, that means they expect fear, compliance, maybe negotiation. They do not expect defiance. The room went still as the idea settled. Human history was a long record of losing and rising again, of being told to kneel and learning instead how to stand. If this was the end, then it would be written in our language. At hour 24, Earth did not respond. The silence was deliberate, a mirror held up to the sky. Let them wander, someone said. Let them measure us wrong. Above the planet, unseen engines shifted slightly, alien fleets adjusting position, confident and patient. They had given prey a deadline. They did not yet understand that humans did not think of themselves as prey. While the aliens waited, humanity worked, not with speeches or parades, but with the quiet efficiency born of centuries of crisis. Factories that once made cars and phones shifted overnight. Lines retooled by tired hands and sharper minds. Satellites were nudged into new orbits. Old cold war systems pulled from storage and breathed back to life. Scientists argued fiercely and productively. Physics scribbled across whiteboards. Theories tested and discarded in hours instead of years. We studied the alien signal, not to talk back, but to learn. It bent space in subtle ways. Folded frequencies like paper, that meant power, and power always had limits. In deserts and tundra, oceans and mountains, humans built and moved and hid. Submarines slipped deeper than ever before. Aircraft flew patterns no one had planned to admit existed. Data flowed into secure nodes. Then, out again. Decentralized, resilient, alive. The aliens sent a reminder at hour 36. You have 12 hours remaining. Compliance ensures survival. No images this time. No emphasis. They assumed a lesson had already been taught. They were wrong. Across the world, ordinary people sensed the shift. There was fear, yes, but also a strange calm. The kind that came when decisions were already made. Families gathered. Soldiers wrote letters they did not expect to send. Children slept while adults watched the sky. In a mountain facility older than most nations, a final plan came together. It was not elegant. Not clean, not guaranteed. It was human. We could not match their fleets, ship for ship. We could not outgun them in open space, so we would not fight them where they were strongest. Instead, we would speak in a language older than words. Physics, momentum, sacrifice. We would turn our own planet into a statement. At hour 47, 1 minute before the deadline, Earth answered, not with surrender, with action. Thousands of signals burst outward at once, not aimed at the alien fleets, but at deep space itself. Gravitational waves rippled, artificial and chaotic. Like a scream through the fabric of the universe, they were not weapons, not directly, they were bait. The alien senses flared, algorithms scrambling to interpret the sudden noise. For the first time, uncertainty entered their calculations. Then, Earth spoke in a single transmission, simple and unadorned. We are not property. We are not quiet. If you wish to claim us, you will bleed for every second. The message ended, not with bravado, but with data, coordinates, trajectories, energy, signatures, proof that humanity had learned how to touch the edges of their power. In orbit, alien commanders reassessed, their confidence dented, but not broken. They had crushed resistance before. This was different, but not impossible. They ordered the advance. Earth had chosen defiance. So be it. The first alien ships descended like falling stars, controlled and precise, hulls shimmering with fields that bent light and heat. Human defenses did not fire immediately. They waited. When the first shots came, they were not aimed at the ships. They struck space around them, detonations tuned to disrupt fields, rather than punch metal. Alien shields flickered, recalibrated, adapted. Humans adapted faster. Every engagement was different, messy, unpredictable. Old doctrines were thrown out in minutes. Pilots and commanders making decisions on instinct sharpened by simulation and fear. We lost cities, coastlines burned, skies glowed unnatural colors, and still we fought. The aliens began to understand the mistake they had made. They had expected centralized control, a single will to break. Instead, they faced a species that fractured under pressure and became stronger for it. When one network went dark, another picked up the fight. When a weapon failed, someone turned debris into ammunition. When hope thinned, stubbornness filled the gap. In the depths of the ocean, a human device did something no alien model had predicted. It collapsed a localized field, using resonance drawn from the planet itself. One alien ship shuddered, then fell, burning, into the sea. The image circled the globe in seconds, not as propaganda, but as proof they can fall. The aliens responded with force. Countenance trembled, millions fled, but with every strike, their precision slipped. They were rushing now, at hour 60. The war had fully ignited. Earth bled, but it did not beg. Days blurred into fire and exhaustion. Humanity paid dearly for every lesson learnt. But each lesson stuck, carved into memory and code. The aliens lost more ships than expected, then, more than acceptable. Their advantage narrowed, not because humans grew stronger, but because humans refused to stop. They offered a new message. Conditional surrender, limited autonomy, preservation of culture. It was generous by their standards. Earth did not answer immediately. In a ruined city, a broadcast went out from a small improvised studio. An ordinary voice, unpolished, tired, spoke for billions. We know you are strong. We know you can hurt us. But we have lived with that knowledge about ourselves for a long time. The feed cut, but the meaning remained. Human counteroffensives began not in space, but in logistics. Supply lines disrupted, command relays confused. The aliens were powerful, but they were not used to fighting a species that weaponized inconvenience. When the first alien flagship withdrew, damaged and retreating, a hush fell over the planet. Hope returned, cautious and fragile. At last, the aliens halted their advance. A final message came, stripped of certainty, heavy with calculation. They proposed withdrawal, observation, delayed contact. Earth answered after 1 hour. We will not be ruled. We will not be erased. If you return in peace, we will meet you. If you return in chains, we will be ready. The alien fleets turned away. Engines, bending space once more. This time, not as conquerors, but as survivors who had learned something new. Earth stood scarred and smoking, but unbroken. Cities rebuilt, borders softened, stories passed down. The day the sky demanded surrender. And humanity answered, not with silence, but with defiance.